The Missouri Supreme Court issued a crucial, albeit temporary, win for the rule of law for women's health and the unborn. Now, after the state's Amendment 3 created a so-called constitutional right to abortion last November, you remember we talked about it, we were up there in Missouri trying to keep that from happening. Well, it happened. And it was, of course, funded by the abortion industry. Well, Planned Parenthood and their cohorts filed a lawsuit to enjoin Missouri's restrictions and regulations on abortion. Basically, they wanted a blank check. They didn't want any oversight. They wanted to be able to do whatever they wanted to do. Well, a circuit court injunction earlier this year blocked enforcement of key health and safety regulations at these abortion facilities. All right, this is something we've talked about before, like abortion clinic regulation acts. I authored one of the first back many years ago when I was in the Louisiana legislature. Well, the Missouri government, led by Attorney General Andrew Bailey, pushed back, saying, wait a minute, no. We have a right to protect our citizens. And so they pursued this all the way up to the state Supreme Court, and they gained a victory yesterday. Here to discuss this, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. He joins us by phone. He's on the road in the state of Missouri. General Bailey, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hey, Tony, thank you so much for having me.
All right, did I lay out the background there good enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, I'm never going to stop fighting to protect life and to protect the health and safety of women. And Planned Parenthood at this point is starting to look more like a criminal enterprise than any kind of legitimate healthcare entity. Let's put this in context. We said all along that Amendment 3 was bad because it was not only going to result in the death of innocent children, but potentially harm to women as well. And as soon as Amendment 3 passed, Planned Parenthood marched to court and said that there shouldn't have to be ultrasounds anymore, that the abortion providers shouldn't have to have complication plans. In other words, they didn't have to have any plan to prevent hemorrhaging or sepsis of their quote-unquote patients, that their facilities didn't have to be licensed, that they didn't need to sterilize their equipment, and that they didn't have to get informed consent voluntarily from the women before they performed these abortions. These are pernicious and dangerous positions that Planned Parenthood has taken in court, and they convinced the judge in Kansas City that they were correct, that Amendment 3 wiped all of that out. I'm proud to say that yesterday we got that action reversed by the Missouri Supreme Court. Now, it might be a temporary win, but we're going to take a moment to celebrate because this effectively shuts down the abortion clinics in the state of Missouri for the time being.
So, but it's also encouraging from a standpoint of, as this plays out, if the Supreme Court there in the state of Missouri felt like Amendment 3 eliminated all right of the state to oversee the abortion industry, they wouldn't have ruled as they did yesterday.
I think you're right. I mean, one of the elements in analyzing whether or not a preliminary injunction is appropriate is the plaintiff's likelihood of success on the merits. And what the Supreme Court said was that the lower court did not apply that proper standard. The lower court said, well, any likelihood, any chance of success on the merits is sufficient. And that is not legally accurate. So the Supreme Court said, go back, use a sharper pencil. I think that at the end of the day, I like your analysis about the rule of law, because I said all along, the Supreme Court of Missouri interprets statutes by giving the words their plain and ordinary meaning. But Amendment 3 was especially dangerous because when it comes to initiative petitions adopted by the people, the court applies a broader interpretive methodology and gives the words their full possible, endlessly possible meaning. And so that's why the drafters of Amendment 3 specifically chose vague and ambiguous language so they could trot out this parade of horribles post-passage of Amendment 3 to undermine the state's ability to guarantee health and safety for women.
So what's the next step here in this legal fight?
Well, we're back at the trial court level in Jackson County. That's Kansas City, Missouri, and we're fighting. The Planned Parenthood has already said they're going to file a new motion for preliminary injunction, and they anticipate being able to obtain that injunction. We're going to fight them. I mean, at the end of the day, the Supreme Court has said you've got to apply the right legal standard. I think that's a higher burden for the plaintiffs to meet, so we're going to get another round at this. And look, in the interim, the other thing that has happened since the passage of Amendment 3 to now is that our General Assembly passed what's called Senate Bill 22 that gives the state, the Attorney General, the ability to appeal from the grant of a preliminary injunction. This is the first time in state's history we've had that authority. We have it at the federal level. We don't have it at the state level. And so even if Planned Parenthood is able to convince this judge a second time that doctors at abortion clinics don't have to sterilize instruments or be licensed, or that the facilities don't have to have complication plans to prevent against hemorrhaging and sepsis of women, even if they're able to convince the trial court judge of that, again, we will appeal to the Missouri Supreme Court. We now have that legal authority because of the passage of Senate Bill 22.
And General Bailey, you touched on this, but we talked about this extensively back when this amendment was being considered by voters. The way it was worded was going to allow the courts to define much of that, what that amendment meant and how it would be applied. That's why this legal battle right out of the chute is so important, because this will establish precedent, will it not?
It will, Tony, but there's another factor at play here, and that's the fact that our General Assembly passed a joint resolution to put a repeal and replacement of Amendment 3 back on the ballot in front of the people. And so this court case is Exhibit A as to why Amendment 3 is bad. The current status quo is bad and dangerous. And so the harder Planned Parenthood leans into this, the stronger our case goes to take to the people of the state to repeal and replace Amendment 3 and restore the respect for life in the state of Missouri and the protection for women's health care.
So when will that be on the ballot?
We're waiting to hear. The default date would be in 2026. The governor has the ability to issue a writ of election to move that date, and I believe he addressed that at a press conference now that he's analyzing when he feels that vote might be most suitable to take place. But I'll tell you, between then and now, I will not stop fighting to prevent the criminal enterprise of Planned Parenthood from killing babies and harming women in the state of Missouri. And this court case is going to be front and center, front lines in that fight.
Because in this process, you'll be able to bring out more evidence of what Planned Parenthood has been involved in. So that, I mean, that's going to be out there for the public to see, will it not?
That's exactly right. And we intend to put all of that evidence in front of the public. Again, the people of the state of Missouri were defrauded by the purveyors of Amendment 3. They sold people on this idea that you have a constitutional right to kill innocent children and that there should be no limitations on it. What they didn't explain is that it would eliminate all health and safety regulations of the state of Missouri. So again, that's why this court case becomes the front line in this fight, and it's going to be really imperative for us to keep our foot on the gas pedal over the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Well, General Bailey, thanks for fighting the good fight, and we hope you'll keep us posted.